Namaste. Good morning. I can't go to sleep, so I'm here instead. I found out that my landlord's internet is cheap internet. It's so it's not just one company. It's made of two companies. It's the reason why it's cheap is because the company sells the information to the other company, and that's why I've been like hacked or interrupted because yeah, I'm not at my house right now, but yeah, at home. This is not home. At home, I use the landlord uses cheap internet, and once again, the reason why it's cheap is because that company sells the information, like the Wi-Fi information, to another company, and that's why it's cheap. And the other company that you know the original company sells the information to is no good. Um, it's like the first company is a storefront, and you know there's no bad people there, but the second company actually has bad people, and they've been messing with me. As long as I've been streaming at home, I and that makes me anxious, and I can't go to sleep right now. And I'll call my landlord tomorrow to change the internet, or I'm out of there because I need the internet to broadcast. So you know, I turned the chat setting off for now. Uh, if anybody's here, let me see. I'm gonna, put this on YouTube later so people know my situation. I'm not just going live. I'm actually uploading to another website. Yeah, so I'm sort of out of ideas on what to do. I think I'll request to cancel the internet tomorrow or today. It's late here, and I can't go to sleep, so I'm here. And hopefully just get a regular internet where there are no hackers, where the company is not made of two companies, where the first company sells the information to the other company, and the second company has actual hackers doing weird stuff. Yeah, never. Nothing's for free. If it's too cheap, there's a reason why. It's like not always, but at least sometimes. Hmm. This is like talking to myself because I don't have any viewers, but I am uploading this to YouTube, so people could see my situation. You I found out why I was being hacked. It's because of cheap internet at home, where the first company was selling the information to the second company, and the second company has hackers doing weird stuff. And they've been messing with me for as long as I've been streaming at home. And I'm not home right now, but I'll get back there in a couple of days. It makes me upset and I can't go to sleep. Now, I will talk to my landlord tomorrow. But, yeah. It's like, you try to do something and there's always something. Like 90% plus, streamers give up, like, after, I don't know, maybe a couple of months, probably because there's so many obstacles in the way. The thing with me is I'm not doing this. I'm doing this for my survival, and I'm also streaming. Because I've been a professional extra on film and TV shows for a few years. Like, the reason why you're being seen publicly is not just because of yourself, but it's through a higher power or higher consciousness. Because you're changing people's lives by broadcasting or showing yourself to other people. You're not changing them. You're influencing them in some way, like however minute or uh, whatever the amplitude is. You're affecting people, and when the higher being or God or whatever you call them doesn't want you to do it, it doesn't happen. So because I do believe in karma. The concept of karma is that nothing is random. You either believe that everything is random or nothing is random. There's pretty much no in between. You either think that everything is a coincidence or nothing is a coincidence. Because I don't think there's in between. There's. And karma is kind of complicated. It's really complicated because when say somebody commits a bad deed, it doesn't happen sometimes for a long time, or sometimes it happens after a short time. Sometimes it doesn't happen at like even in that life. It happens like in the life after. It's that complicated because it has to move into the whole population. That's why bad things happen to seemingly good people because of karma. Karma doesn't go away even after like trillions of years. So yeah, I'm gonna take a nicotine break. Like for me, for example, I don't recall anything from my past life, but I know I had past lives. Um, I do everything right now by processes of elimination. Like I, you know, subtract this, subtract that. Oh, this must be it. So I don't recall my past life, but I know who I was right before this life. I'm not gonna say who I was because, you know, it's outlandish at the moment, at least. But there's a reason why I'm able to read Sanskrit. You can't really teach Sanskrit. You have to know that in a previous life to be able to speak Sanskrit. And 5,000 years ago, pretty much, you know, India was the center of the world. India was what America is 5,000 years ago. Everything was happening in India, and everyone spoke Sanskrit fluently and correctly. Nobody knows how to pronounce Sanskrit anymore correctly. I know how to pronounce about 90% of the words right now correctly. And even in my previous life, I didn't pronounce it correctly. I pronounced it like, you know, all the other people in the world. Like, and I said this before, the word Ganuesha, the elephant god, Ganuesha. That's how you say it correctly. I know that for sure. It's not Ganesha. It spells different in the Devanagari. Ganesha is not even a word as far as I know. Ganuesha is the elephant god. So that pronunciation has been lost for like at least, a couple of thousand years. Because Sanskrit is and I said this before, the mother language of the Indo-Europeans. Like at least 90% of Europeans were Indo-Europeans, you know, and they spoke Sanskrit fluently, and it sounded like a European language. A lot of the French pronunciation, like things like noir, you know, those were included in Sanskrit, which has been lost. And there's a difference between na and na. It's not Krishna. That spells different in Devanagari. It's Krishna. Krishna. But that pronunciation has been lost for at least 500 years. Because 500 years ago, there were some people still left who spoke correctly. And I say this from reading, what is it? Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is, in translation, it's the life of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya in English. It's Chaitanya. And yeah, he spoke Sanskrit fluently, but he didn't really need to study it. But yeah, he pronounced it correctly. But even after 500 years, nobody really says Krishna. Everybody says Krishna, which is a totally different word. I don't think it's even a word. But yeah, the reason why I know this is from my past life. And by the process of deduction, I found out who I was. I don't recall anything or have no memory of my past life, but all the things that happened in my life, you know, start to make sense when you know who you were and what you did and why, like a lot of crazy bad things happened to me in this life. And, when you don't know the reason why, you don't believe in, you stop believing in the higher power because um, there's a form of grudge stemming from the lack of understanding why bad things are happening. And that's sort of like what happened to me for a really long time. And when I realized all this karmic stuff, I started to make peace with it. I'm not there, like I'm not even halfway there, but yeah, I am starting to make peace with my life. There's not, like, for me, the world pretty much has nothing to offer for me. Yeah, I have bodily desires. I have a form of avarice, or whatever people like want. I have the exact same thing and maybe a different amplitude, but at the end of the day, like I don't need it. If you know what I mean. Just like there's nothing to do, and and when you realize that even friendships aren't forever, like yeah, kind of quoting this from the Yoga Sutra, like even friends become like a form of pain because you make friends and someday you're gonna say goodbye. So it's best to not even have friends. Maybe that was harsh, but even your parents aren't forever, your family isn't forever, but maybe I said this, I typed this in chats. I used to say 10,000 years is eternal for in human standards because humans only live up to what, like 120, 130 maybe. An immortal lives, should live at least like 9,000 years. Then you could call him or her immortal. And according to Hindu scriptures, some people lived like 10,000 years. And this happened a couple of million years ago, and even before that. Yeah, a lot of people think that we were just like ape-like, you know, but according to Hindu scriptures, there were actually two races. There was the monkey race, and there was the human race, or I call it what is it? The earthly race, which is the monkey race, and celestial race, which they always looked human. And people, yeah, people nowadays don't know that concept. They think that we were all monkeys, and I say no. There were actually two distinct races of humans. Um, Most Europeans stem from the celestial race, and the all the others are from the earthly race. If you don't know, being European is kind of special, according to the Hinduism, whatever. Um, and you see the world in a different way when you're European. You don't, life is more kind of like a movie than like a drag. You know, it's a form of gift. Um, and I'm quoting Yoga Sutra. Anybody wants to call me a racist, but what is it? It's called enlightening process. Maybe I shouldn't say it here, but it's in the Yoga Sutras. Being European is not just it's not a normal thing. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, I'll say it once more. Sanskrit is the mother language of Indo-Europeans. Think about that for a moment. And it's not the Sanskrit that you hear now. 90% people, at least 90%, don't know how to say it anymore. And that was actually prophesied in the Hindu scriptures, saying that in the last days, mm, like people, just as people won't know how to, people won't speak Sanskrit. So whatever Sanskrit that you've heard is really not Sanskrit. It's like what do I call it? Bastardized. Nicotine. Oh yeah. Going back to the Hindu scriptures about the celestial race and the earthly race, like Rama was born of a celestial race. Rama, Shri Rama, that's from Ramayana. He was the king of earth for 10,000 years, but a million or 2 million years ago. And the monkey race, sorry, that's what the Hindu scriptures say. The earthly race, some of them had tails. The monkey race had tails 1 to 2 million years ago. And that makes sense according to the theory of evolution. But not all of us had tails. Some humans had no tails. That's my point. And there was the bear race, there was another race. Forget. But yeah, uh, humans were different a million years ago. Rama, according to the scripture, had like red skin color. Like his skin color was of red tone. Like not just like seeming. It was really red. And my point is, that he looked like a cartoon character more than people. Mm. And but even 5,000 years ago, Krishna's race was called Vishnui race, and they had deep blue, dark blue skin color, and the race became extinct because Krishna, before he himself passed away, he Shri Krishna, sorry, Lord Krishna, he he destroyed the whole his own race because he didn't want to burden the earth with such strong race of people on earth because they would dominate them. So yeah, the earth used to have movie like people, like, and there were miracles according to the scriptures. Krishna and his brother Balarama brought back someone who died 15 years before, and he still brought him back to life. I don't know how that entails as far as karma goes, because you're born after you die, you're born again about 7 months later, something like that. Could be anywhere from like maybe a couple of months to a year, year and a half. But yeah, so I don't know what happened to the original soul, during the 15 years, but um, Kurishino managed to bring that person back to life after 15 years, after he died 15 years ago. Later. Sorry if I'm mumbling. This is kind of new to me. I guess I'm an introvert, but I was planning to go to sleep, but there's a lot of things on my mind, so might as well be here. It is kind of like talking to myself, but I am gonna post it to YouTube. At least, yeah, I'm not gonna say how many viewers we have. It's kind of embarrassing, but I guess it's a good practice for me. Yeah, with practice comes perfection, but most people give up after uh, failures. I don't know how many, but I'll just say this about my past life. So I'm Korean now. I wasn't Korean before this life. I believe I was Indian. And then I know for 100% now. I found this out through a process of deduction. It took me a long time to figure it out. Once you figure out things like that, then things start to make sense. So about my past life, I guess I could make a joke out of it. The joke is, why did I do what I did? It's called karma. Like if you're a perfected yogi, you're able to see the whole timeline of the past and the future, and you will see that the time has no beginning. If anybody thinks that time had a beginning, like there was a time where there was no time, uh, you're not. It's not right. There was always time, and time has no beginning. Time is also endless. If you think that time will end one day, time does not end. Like civilization will end. You know, things will end, but time doesn't end. Time just goes forward. It doesn't even go backwards. It just goes forward. As far as I know, if anybody, you know, could prove that time could go backwards, I would say that one, probably in your head, you were time traveling in your head, or two, maybe you actually did it and you have to show me out. But there's not even one instance in any of the ancient scriptures that time went backwards. So you can't. I don't go against time. If anybody wants to go against time, then you're more special than I am. If you could see the future or see the past, you're still special. But my point is that you can't. Time does not go backwards, and it's we have made this measure of time called seconds and minutes and hours, and as far as I know, like that won't stop. Time doesn't stop. So time is beginningless and time is endless. So, and you make, by a process of deduction, you conclude that time is actually a circle. When the circle began, I don't know, but the circle was always there. So the time goes back to the beginning, and we're talking like 42 trillion years. So like, and humans only live up to 120, maybe 130. So to understand the concept of 42 trillion years, um, so in theory, whatever is happening now happened before 42 trillion years ago. And I hope that doesn't sound crazy, but if you think that time had a beginning, that's more crazy than saying that, um, say the same thing happened 42 trillion years ago. You know, I'm stuttering a little right now. I'm new to this, so, and this happened exactly the same way 42 trillion years ago. Um, was it me that was doing it? Let me see. No, because the soul goes over time 3 times. Um, and the soul goes through lots of bodily changes. So it's like 42 trillion years times 3. It's like 126 years of changes the soul goes through, and then you come back again. So in theory, there are actually 3 versions of you in this world. There's the 42 trillion years, uh, at the 42 trillion year version of you on this earth, and there's also 84 trillion years uh, um, difference. Uh, what am I trying to say here? There's another version of you that's 84 trillion years apart. Time is 42 trillion years, and it's a loop. And there's kind of like 3 versions of you. Um, and you know, basically, you go through the lowest stage, the middle stage, and the highest stage. All right, nicotine break. Yeah, and I'm gonna start quoting Hindu scriptures. It's the oldest scripture. Like even the last thing written in Sanskrit was like 25,000 years ago. You know, it's called Buddhita Charita, the life of Buddha, and it cuts off after like chapter 11. The Sanskrit disappears, and that's kind of like when Sanskrit started to disappear 2,500 years ago. And now people don't know how to speak Sanskrit properly. Even the ones that know how to say it, they don't pronounce it correctly anymore because it's been disappearing for the last 2,500 years. But yeah, even 500 years ago, there were some people left who spoke Sanskrit perfectly. I don't know how many there are now. I would say about 10% or less. And and jumping to another subject here. Even the 2 angels in the Bible, the Old Testament, who destroyed they destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Um, they didn't use violence; they used words, and the words they spoke were in Sanskrit. And if you're a Christian, speaking Sanskrit is speaking in tongues. The language doesn't exist anymore, as far as I know. It disappeared 5,000 years ago, and it started disappearing even more 2,500 years ago, and it's pretty much extinct. And I recently found that Sanskrit is not just a language; it's a living language. You don't mess with it because it's like it's like it's like a cat or something. You pay respect to Sanskrit. It's like a living language. Like, I used to just treat this thing here with contempt because I didn't know better. But when I realized that it's alive, um, then I started paying more respects to it, and I think um, less bad things happened to me since it's kind of coincided. But that's called karma. Um, even the New Testament Bible in Revelation, it prophesies that people will speak a new living language. I believe that language is Sanskrit. And like I mentioned before, I'm able to pronounce it correctly about 90% of it or more. It's just now the rest part that I don't know is because um, I would say because I'm in so much pain. Once the pain goes away, and it is disappearing, which is hence the reason why I'm able to rent. And those who don't know, I mentioned this before. I suffered a fatal injury about 5 years ago, which made me stop acting as an professional extra, and that was my life. I'm probably gonna miss it for a really really long time, and I can't even go back to doing it because of the injury that I've suffered. And I mentioned this before. I should have been dead. It was a fatal encounter, but through the use of drugs and um, yoga and the yoga system, it kept me alive. But for a while, I was, when you cut off the head of a chicken, it still runs around for a minute or something like that, for a couple of minutes. I was like that for a while. I didn't know I was supposed to be dead. I was in, like, I would only just say, describe it as like being in so much pain. And like I don't even know how I endured it through the use of drugs. So yeah, don't judge drugs. That's my advice. Maybe I judged drugs before in my past life, but one thing I've learned is if you need something for survival, like to do yourself good, and it's still looked down upon by the society, um, then screw the society and probably do it secretly. But yeah, those aren't bad things. Those are good things for you at that time. Like I said this before. I smoked a lot of weed to survive. I smoked weed every day for 10 years or something like that. And then it came to a point where I couldn't use it anymore because the time was up. And all drugs are medicine. All medicine is temporary. And my time was up. And I don't think I'll ever use it again because I don't need it. I've experienced it for 10 years daily. you know, and not just daily. It was like when I was near death, my death experience, I was using it hourly just to survive. And if you told that to people, they'll judge you. Go, maybe you should be dead. Why keep yourself alive? Weed is bad for you. Like, die instead. You know. I don't understand people like that in this life. Maybe I did the same thing they were doing in my past life, but so there's a reason why I don't recall my past life because I'm not ready for it. All I could say is I was probably really strict to people that I shouldn't have been strict with. You know, maybe I told people to not use weed and they really needed it for survival to and I'm going through exactly what they're going through just to experience, you know, their experiences. And I you know, personally, I kind of know that to be true for me myself, but 90%, I understand it. Oh, and about the Hare Krishna mantra, people say it gibberishly. I'm generalizing it. And I'm generalizing people who recite the mantra. But it has no, like, I don't know what I said in my past life, but its effectiveness is severely reduced when you don't pronounce it correctly. Because when you say it correctly, people who don't even know the mantra will be shocked, and that's just an understatement. Some people will get really scared, and some people will be enlightened just by hearing it, like that. It all depends on people. So yeah, if you're just mumbling, maybe I shouldn't say should, but just think about saying it more correctly. If you don't know how, and if you're watching this on YouTube, because I'll post it on YouTube later, write in comments like how to say it properly. I'll teach you. I know how to say it properly. I can't do it 100% right now because I'm in pain. You know, I was the reason why I started streaming is because I'm near getting rid of this pain. I couldn't stream even 3 months ago. I wouldn't stream. I wouldn't have streamed. I wasn't well enough. And you know, like I said before, streaming is not really up to you. Live streaming is kind of up to the higher power. When you broadcast yourself, um, you're influencing people, whoever they are. And if the higher power if it's not the higher power's will, you will not you will not be able to live stream, and that's probably why about 90% plus people just quit after you know a few months or whatever. I've only been doing this for 2 weeks, and I see the pressure. It's not easy. I used to think live streaming was easy. Looking at all the live streamers, oh, it's easy. It's not. It's work. It's a form of work, and you also have to be careful what you say because you think this society is free. It's really not. it will be free one day, but we're not there. And the reason why it's not free is there's too many bad things. So when there are so many bad things, like the ones that are in power would limit the freedom of its population. It's all they can do, you know. Yeah, and since I'm a Kabbalist, I pretty much believe in all religions. I don't talk to people in a particular religion. I just look at their books. I've even read the Quran, and it made sense to me. I read it a few times at least, and I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Kabbalist, but I don't even think, like, I don't know, but most people don't read their books. Christians don't read their Bibles, and there are so many different versions. The one version that I found the most useful for me is the complete Jewish Bible. It's called the CJB, and it has the Old Testament and also the New Testament. Because guess what? The entire Bible was written by Jews. Period. If anybody wants to argue, you know, with me on that, be my guest. But believe whatever you want to believe in. And that's the reason why I'm part of the reason why I'm converting into Judaism is because and even the Hindu scriptures prophesy about Jews. They call them different names, but uh, I would say Israelites. The Israelites went through a process of refinement. God refined them in the Old Testament, like in the ancient days when an Israelite did this, cut him off and stone him to death. So they went through all this refinement. It was like refinement by fire, death. Got rid of all the what is it? The unpresentable qualities that happened in the Old Testament. So whatever Jews you're seeing now are all the refined Jews from the old Jews, the old Israelites, or the descendants of them anyway. But I've also heard that even, um, you know, a lot of Jews don't know how to pronounce um, Hebrew words correctly anymore. The pronunciation also has been lost, just like Sanskrit. Um, John chapter 1 says, in the beginning was the Word. If there were no time, there was the Word. But there's no time when there was no time. And that should, by a process of deduction, that should let you know, or let myself know, I don't have faith. I'm in so much pain. Having faith is like work for me at the moment. Uh, but by a process of deduction, that should like let you know that nothing is random. Nothing is a coincidence. There are two types of people in this world, and I was both of them at one. There are people who believe that everything is random, and there are people who believe that nothing is random. There's no in between. You either believe that everything is random or nothing is random. And I was both those people in periods of my life. And by a process of deduction, I conclude that nothing is random. It's hard to believe. It's worked for me. I'm in so much pain. Once the pain goes away, I will believe. Trust me. But it's called fatal injury, fatal wound. Nicotine break. And in case you're an unbeliever, there are some people in the world who knows the future, who know the future. Even crazy for me. I always like after the fatal encounter, I especially thought like, oh, my life could end at any moment. I still think so. Uh, it's a little less now than before. And the Yoga Sutra says, to the enlightened, everything is a form of pain. Like, if you're living in a life of luxury. Sorry. So my pronunciation is affected by my fatal wound. Believe it or not, I used to speak better. I'm still able to pronounce Sanskrit, but not to the extent that I want to. So angers me even more when I get interrupted when I'm speaking Sanskrit. So if this life isn't random, then I know the path of my life, and it's my hope at the moment. I don't have faith in it, but it has been my hope for a while. I did not have that hope. Like 6 months, even 6 months ago, I did not have that hope. I have the hope now. I have hope. And I've been streaming for a couple of weeks. I'm gonna keep streaming because that's what I have to do. It's like Hinduism is called dharma. Dharma means duty. It's my duty to do what I do, which is posting my daily improvements. Like if you've watched, even compare my videos from 2 weeks ago, not the quality, but the quality of me. It's different. Like it's improved from 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks from now on, it will be. I don't know how much I'll improve more, but there will be more improvements. And once again, I apologize for if it sounds like mumbling. It's because I'm in pain. I don't know how many times I'll say it, but I'll just say it once more. It's called fatal wound. I would say I have endured about 20 times the amount of fatal pain than most people. Like most people will be dead, like if they went through what I went through. Yeah, drugs are good for you sometimes. Drinking. I'll talk about drinking for a little bit. Drinking is when you wanna, when you're married and wanna procreate kids. That's probably when you should drink. Um, it's pointless to drink when your life is miserable. You know, it's kind of digging yourself deeper. I did it. I did it too. Found that out the hard way. I don't plan to drink for now. Like I would say, ever could change because when Yahusha, that's Jesus' real Hebrew name, Yahusha comes back, is I'll drink anew with you when I come back. That's another time to celebrate. Yeah, I do believe in Yahusha. I don't believe in Jesus, but because that's not his real, that's not even his name. You know, I believe in Yahusha. And I believe in Yahusha that he died for my sins and he was raised back to life in 3 days. I would say that if Jesus were here now, because Jesus was born, or Yahusha was born 2,000 years ago, and the world has gotten worse from 2,000 years ago. If Yahusha were here, my theory is that it would take him even more to come back. Like instead of 3 days, it might take him 3.5 days. I'm just hinting at the state of the world right now. And why do I say this? In the New Testament, it's written that Yahusha couldn't perform as many miracles because people did not believe. You know, that was 2,000 years ago. How many more unbelievers do we have now? I was one, you know. And when you're suffering so much, it's hard to believe in anything. You start believing that everything is random and that we're just animals just to procreate and, you know, live like animals basically. And that's not the way. That was my way, you know. But I learned a lot of things the hard way. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that there aren't that many viewers right now because it gives me a room to practice. Maybe 50 years from now, somebody's gonna watch it and go like, "What the hell was he saying there?" But and my advice for people who are spiritual and are looking for like a foundation, I would say become a Kabbalist if you can. I'm not gonna force that on anyone. It's for me. It gives me, you know, the privilege to study other religions to my advantage. If it is advantageous to me, I could use it. And if you know, somebody might say, "Oh, you're blaspheming my religion." Well, God is in each and every one of us, and that's in not just Christianity. That's in like pretty much all religions. So a religion should be beneficial to you. Most religions don't say that, but that's kind of like unspoken reward for your belief. You know, it should be advantageous to you, unless God specifies that you must suffer for this while, like in person. Yeah, don't torture the God within yourself. Instead, empower that God within you. I'm doing it through the yoga system. Specifically focusing on Bhagavad Gita and Rig Veda and the Yoga Sutras. And the reason, number one, is I don't have any time to look at anything else. Number two is Bhagavad Gita is a yoga manual. It's like really condensed version of the Yoga Sutras. The reason being why it's in a condensed form is because Lord Krishna recited it to Arjuna just a couple hours before when the battle started beginning. That's when he started lecturing him. It's like, I don't want to go to battle. Well, he spoke for like a couple hours. And at the end of it, Arjuna was like, "Oh, thank you. I recall who I was. I must battle now. Thank you very much." So that's why Bhagavad Gita is that powerful, because in like about a billion people, which is pretty much the entire population of the earth at that time, came to India to battle. That was the first war. That was the second world war. The first world war was like in Ramayana, which happened 1.5 million years ago. Um, everyone came to battle against Ravana, the demon king. But oh yeah, going back to the second war, the actual Second World War in India, 5,000 years ago, 1 billion people, which is pretty much the entire population of the earth, came to India, Kurukshetra, um, to battle, and Arjuna didn't want to fight. And in that, like when in a state of war, you're a different person. Yeah, all your senses are like heightened to the utmost degree, and that's when Krishna recited Bhagavad Gita. So, and I think Krishna even says himself later, that I could be wrong, that like I can recite Bhagavad Gita now. I was in a different, like I was in a really heightened sense. That's why I was able to he was able to recite Bhagavad Gita, and that um, it's it's like the art of war in yoga format. That's what Bhagavad Gita is. And for a person like myself, it's kind of perfect for me because like I'm doing everything for survival at the moment, and that was like a survival manual in Sanskrit. I've spoken for about an hour. Wow, I've been online for an hour. If anybody's heard anything they disliked, I apologize. This is my first time ranting or chatting on stream. Um, and since I do believe in karma, I part of the reason why I'm doing this, and I don't even know this myself. I believe I'm doing what I'm doing now to kind of correct myself when I was um, in my past life. Whatever I said before, there are corrections, and the corrections are made through my life experiences. So if if I said the wrong things in my past life, I'm kind of like trying to correct them here. And if I'm making the wrong statements now, I apologize in advance so that nothing bad will happen to me later. And if still bad things happen to me, then that I guess that's my karma. And karma's real. Even atheists kind of believe in karma, or at least they act according to it. That's why the civilization still exists as it is now, and you don't see people, um, not too many people doing bad things in the open. Not yet, anyway. I mean, yeah, there are, but it isn't a chaos. It isn't like a zombie apocalypse or whatever you call it. Not yet, anyway. I said this before. My theory is that the world will get worse, even worse than what it is now, and then it'll get will there'll be a heaven on earth. That's my hope. Do I believe in it fully? Not yet. Do I even have a mustard seed of faith in it? I don't think so. But I have hope at the moment. That's all you can do. Or sometimes all you can do is have hope, and because sometimes you don't even have hope. It's better to have hope than be hopeless. But there's a time to be hopeless. There's a time to have hope. I was hopeless for a long time. And for those few or several or I don't know how many, it's not that many, who've watched all my daily routine videos and are watching this now, I really appreciate it. You know, as a former actor, um, and it energizes me. I wasn't an actor, I was an extra actor. But actors have no self esteem, so when there are even professional extras, they don't call themselves actors. It's kind of sad in a way because like 99% of the population don't even get to do that. Probably gonna go to sleep soon. I'm gonna take a nicotine break and then rant some more and then go to sleep. And once again, I apologize if anybody's heard from this stream things they disliked. That's all I could do. Um, you either try to correct them next time, or yeah, well, I'll do something about it, something good about it. If I were Indian now, and am doing what I'm doing now, if I had come to America now to teach people either the mantra or the Yoga Sutras or Sanskrit, I would I would just recite. I would do exactly what I'm doing on the videos, and that's it. Like I wouldn't rant like this if I were like a teacher or something. I wouldn't add anything to um, either what I'm doing or the original. Like I wouldn't make comments on anything. The text is good enough. Like Bhagavad Gita itself is good enough. You don't need to add anything to it. But the thing is, if you don't know how to pronounce the Sanskrit correctly, it's really hard to. It's not easy to understand the concept of Bhagavad Gita. So there's there was probably you know a need for an explanation, but the explanation becomes a hindrance or an obstacle when you know Sanskrit. Whatever things are added to just becomes an obstacle. I wouldn't make commentaries. I wouldn't make. Basically, I wouldn't do what I'm doing now, which is ranting. This is like a personal thing for me. I'm gonna make sure that I write rant instead of like chatting, because this is just private stuff, personal stuff. I'm not forcing whatever I said to anyone, period. Like, this is just me, just, I couldn't go to sleep, so, I started to rant. And that's it. And, like, and also if I were an Indian coming to America to teach people about the religion, I wouldn't I wouldn't like even give advice. I definitely wouldn't judge anybody on anything. Like, even if they were using hard drugs like fentanyl, like I wouldn't comment on it. I would just stay as neutral as I can. And that's the best way. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that you should stay neutral. I'm saying that I would do that. I would stay neutral to everything that people do, or as much as I can anyway. I guess the best way to teach is show your daily routine, you know, show people what you do. I don't know if I should mention this or not, but physical sex has really evil consequences. Better to have like FaceTime or use Zoom or something that's not, that's digital and not physical. We have the technology now. Um, like even 20 years ago, we couldn't do what we could do now. But if you must do what you would do, don't do physical. Don't go physical. In the movie Demolition Man, which was which was on in theaters in 1993. It's a 1993 movie. It talks about digital sex and it's a dystopian future setting or something like that. But it's supposed to be comical. Um, touching other people physically, they wouldn't touch people, And I kind of like as as a student of Yoga Sutra, like I kind of like that concept because when you're perfected, you're isolated. You're um, yeah, touching has consequences, evil consequences sometimes, and sexual touch has really evil consequences. So yeah, and you could still keep your virginity if you're going digital. Like going physical is for procreation. That's when you go physical, and for no other reason than that. So yeah, if you have the desire, go digital. That's my advice. Save yourselves. I think I covered a lot of subject in an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, we have all this digital equipments now. FaceTime, we have Skype. You know, try it out before you get you. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not gonna force this on anyone, but physical has evil consequences. No other. There's no escaping it. At least for most people. If you're not most people, don't listen to me. But for most people, it has evil consequences. I'm talking about physical. This is good for me. Like I'm starting to get sleepy. The reason why I started to rant is because I couldn't go to sleep. Like, I couldn't do this 20 years ago, but I could do this now. It's like technology is saving my life at least. I don't know about you, but And also, there are no multiple timelines. There's just this timeline. You don't have multiple selves. Most of you don't have multiple selves. You know, there's just one consciousness and one body, one individual and one body. If you're a perfected yogi, you could go into the bodies of others with your mind. But to achieve that, you have to be completely non-violent first, or nothing will happen to you. Nothing else will happen. The first thing the Yoga Sutra specifies is non-violence. Like that's like the foundation of yoga is ahimsa, which is non-violence. And by setting up that foundation of non-violence or ahimsa, you establish everything else. Without non-violence, nothing in yoga is possible. Or at least it's extremely difficult, almost impossible. That's the that's the phrase. The Hare Krishna mantra is a two-edged sword. It heals and it destroys. It heals the good and destroys the evil. I believe, like I don't know if I specifically said this. I was jumping to different subjects. The two angels who destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, it did it through Sanskrit, or yeah, did it through Sanskrit, reciting Sanskrit scriptures or mantras. They destroyed the city, the cities. They didn't use violence. Yeah, Sanskrit is a two-edged sword. It heals the good and destroys the evil. So if say like just pretend that Sodom and Gomorrah was like a good city, it would have prospered the cities. So the concept of non-violence still applies. Two angels were just reciting. They were speaking tongues of angels, tongue of angels, and it destroyed the two cities. It's to smithereens, pulverized the cities. I don't know why this is. It's also like there were two angels, not just one. There's also written in Hindu scriptures that if two or more people, two or three people, uh, recite the Hare Krishna mantra, I am with them. Or God is with you. Once again, I apologize if I said something that upset people. I hope that most things that I spoke, or at least some things that I spoke, had its foundations in the religious texts. Like when I study a religion, I don't talk to the people of the religion. I go after their books. The books are sometimes they're very different than how people are in that, even within that religion. Makes you question things. How did you deviate from that? It's like it's written here. So one more comment. If you're familiar with the the longest epic called Mahabharata, the pretty sounding name for me is Yudhishthira. 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 It's not Yudhishthira, it's Yudhishthira. 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 He was the king of Earth for a while. After the war ended, the family of Pandus, the family of Arjuna won. And out of 1 billion people, about 12,000 people, or either 12,000 or 25,000 survived after the war. And King Yudhishthira became king of the earth until he died. But it wasn't that long. He reigned for until his death, which was maybe 70 years. Less than that, maybe. I don't know. Around 70 years. And Yudhishthira was probably even as a Kushatra, the warrior class, there were 4 castes. There are 4 castes. The Brahmanas, the intellectuals, the warrior class, the traders, and Shudras, which are servants or something. Even the warrior class, among the warrior, Yudhishthira was very non-violent. He even his presence would incite respect. You knew exactly who he was. And if you're a Hindu listening to me, he was the incarnation of Brahma. There's 3 gods, main gods in Hinduism, which is actually one god. There's I said this before, a soul has 3 versions of you, because a soul goes through the 42 trillion year timeline 3 times. It's Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma, and it's just one soul divided into 3 timelines. Shiva is the youngest, becomes Vishnu 42 trillion years later. That's one timeline. And then another 42 trillion years after Vishnu becomes Brahma. So they're actually just one soul and 3 different souls, if that makes sense. Because time ends after 42, time doesn't. Time repeats itself after 42 trillion years. The Shiva will become Vishnu after 42 trillion years. Brahma goes back to being Shiva after 42 trillion years. And Vishnu becomes Brahma. That's why, if you don't know, and if you're a Hindu, you should know, Brahma is called the grandfather, and Vishnu is called father. And this should even apply to Christians. Vishnu is the father. And Shiva should be known as the son or the child. Shiva is the destroyer, like a child. Vishnu is the protector, and Brahma is the creator. So Shiva eventually, within 42 trillion years, learns to protect the world. And after 42 trillion years after that, he becomes the creator. And after Brahma, after 42 trillion years, he kind of forgets himself. It's been such a long time because 126 trillion years. He goes back to being a child again. So, even Krishna confirms that soul never ends. So and I believe that Brahma forgets everything about himself and then goes back to being a child. And Brahma himself becomes a woman in the Kali Yuga. That's just my theory, but it should make sense if you're a Hindu. So he goes through a phase of being a woman, because the whole time from Shiva to Vishnu and Brahma, he stays as a male. Like it's the and after and Brahma in Kali Yuga and starting the seventh Manvantara. This is the seventh Manvantara. There are 14 planets or Manvantaras. Mars was before this. Mars was inhabitable 3 trillion years ago. Why? Because the sun was hotter back then. And the earth was inhabitable 3 trillion years ago. The sun does change over you know trillions of years. It starts as the hottest, and then the sun actually, I wouldn't say disappear, but it it kind of disappears after 42 trillion years. If that doesn't make sense to you, just think that an average human lives like maybe 80 years, like a trillion years, a million years, billion years, 1 trillion years. And we're talking 42 trillion years. And yeah, Mars was inhabitable 3 trillion years ago. And the Mars was the sixth Manvantara, sixth creation. And it's called Mars because it ended in war. The seventh Manvantara, my theory is, will not have its complete heaven. Like it won't be. Like Venus is the next one. It's called Venus because it's a planet of love. That's the eighth Manvantara. The first seven and the next the final seven. It's like evil and good, or good and evil. The seventh will not have a complete form of God is male and female, and I'm quoting the Old Testament here. But God is male and female. God will not have seven Manvantara will not have its complete form of God. It may have just half a form of God, which is the male version. But that's having a half God is better than having no God, if you know what I mean. Because we're living in a godless world. And if you're a Hindu, Shiva will be the that God, or half God, whatever you call it, a God without a woman, because it's seventh Manvantara. But that should make sense because the state of the world right now is so awful that it's inconceivable to believe that there'll be a complete it should be inconceivable for most people to believe that this could be like Venus. We're not Venus. This is the Earth. Venus is 3 trillion years from now, which is a very long time. But we'll get there eventually. But the good news is that, and um, most religion, or all the religions that I know of, prophesy this, that God will come back on earth. And the what is it? The Hare Krishna devotees believe that there will be peace for 10,000 years, and it actually started 500 years ago, and we're on a very, 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 very slow start. So it'll be 9,500 years of peace. But we're gonna get worse, and then there will be heaven on earth. It shouldn't take more than 25 years until we get there. Hmm. 9,500 years of peace is practically eternity according to human standards, because humans only live up to 120 years. It's inconceivable to think that one could live even 1,000 years. It's like 9,500 years. And that's like the what is it? The minimum requirement for immortality. And just one more thing, and then I'll go to sleep. Those who think that this world isn't real are to be pitied, and that's according to the Yoga Sutra. I'm real. This world is real. You just don't get to see it because you're in a body. Every body is doing their own thing. I'm doing my own thing. But just because you don't see it, like in person, like this is all digital. But if you don't, and there are deep fakes and AI fakes, but if you don't believe that this world is real, and according to Yoga Sutra, that person is to be pitied. All right, just one more nicotine break and maybe a couple of more minutes, and then I'm going to sleep. So 1 hour and 40 minutes of practice, but I'll post this on YouTube. And if YouTube doesn't let me post it, or if there are repercussions from it because of my ranting, then so be it. And like I said, like this world isn't really free because there are so many bad elements in the world, and the ones that are in power, all they could do is to limit the freedom. Nobody controls the world but God or the higher power. Nicotine. I don't know how often I'll be ranting, and especially given my condition, I'm not like I can't even speak. And if anybody thinks like, oh, he's trying to speak English, it's like, no, no, no. I suffered a fatal wound, and it's a miracle that I'm able to open my mouth to recite Sanskrit while I have my fatal wound is like a miracle for me. I used to speak better. I can't even be an actor I can't even be an extra, anymore because of my fatal wound that I suffered. But you can't tell. Again, I don't know if some people. I believe that some people could tell. It's like, how is he even able to move? But most people wouldn't. They would just see like what they don't know. Maybe there was a need for my rant. Yeah, that's my background. Everything that and I'm gonna post this on YouTube. Everything that I do here is posted on YouTube. So if even if there are no audiences, there are audiences. That's a good thing about technology. Like I couldn't do this 20 years ago. Like if I I couldn't have survived. Like I'm glad that I suffered my fatal wound 5 years ago than like 20 years ago because I would have been dead. For those who think that technology negates the concept of God, it's actually the exact reverse opposite. Because technology is saving my life, and I believe in. I don't believe in randomness, and I said this before. You either are a person who believe in all random, the world is all random, or nothing is random. There's no in between. You're either gonna be in one state or the other. I was in both states, and my conclusion, by a process of deduction, it's like I'm amazed that I could even say process. It's really hard for me. It's fatal wound. Um, by a process deduction, I conclude that nothing is random. And if you ask me, which person are you? So even 6 months ago, I would have said I'm a person of um, the randomness believer. Like everything is random. Like you believe in God, like there's no God. You just live like animals and die one day, procreate. But that's actually not true. That's not the truth. You can't handle the truth. It's hard for me to handle the truth. I'm in so much pain. I apologize for the last time if I said anything that upset people. Um, but at least some things that I said are based on the scriptures of different religions. And I am a Kabbalist. For those who think that I'm a converted Hindu or whatever, I had a past life. I don't remember what I was, but I know who I was. And this I conclude from processes of deduction. Like everything that I do, even now, is for survival. And what survival means is like process of elimination. You take away this that you don't need. You take away something else that you don't need. You only take something that's essential. And that's how I found out who I was in my past life. And the good thing is, I since I recite Bhagavad Gita in the original Sanskrit, if a Hindu watches what I'm doing, like it automatically confirms their faith. It's like there's no question, there's there's no convincing involved. It's like they hear the Sanskrit coming from me, and I pronounce it like I said, like 90% accurately or more. Um, it 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 like lets them know it's like, oh, like what is it? India is like mostly Hindu and Bangladesh is like mostly Muslims. And there's no question. I mean, I study both religions, and there are, like, as a Kabbalist, I take good parts of the Quran and, you know, parts that I need from Hinduism. Like, if you're gonna study a religion, study the books. Don't like ask the people, especially nowadays. I mean, if you have trustworthy people that you could talk to, that's a different story. But I like personally haven't found any. Um, I found reliable people, but they're either too busy or yeah. Go after the books, read the books. If you're a Christian, especially, you should read the Quran. Like, I'm not a Muslim, but I read the Quran. I read it like I said before. I read it a few times, and the words are different than what people practice. What does that tell you? I even studied Buddhism. I mean, most people think I'm a Buddhist reciting Sanskrit. Like, I'm not a Buddhist. I'm a Kabbalist. I do my daily Kabbalah prayer, which I should be doing now, but I need to go to sleep. So there's a conundrum. Like, should I do the Kabbalah prayer? Or should I go to sleep and wake up and do the Kabbalah prayer? But yeah, I'm a Kabbalist, and being a Kabbalist is great because you get to study all the other religions. Like, all of the religions that I've studied somehow prophesy that in the last days God will come back, or the higher being, or whatever you call it. Yeah, the books are very, very different than what people preach. All right, another nicotine break. I use this is saving my life, believe it or not. And it hurts me when people judge. It's like he's reciting the Hare Krishna mantra and like vaping nicotine. Like, how dare he? It's like, I'm not a Hindu. I'm a Kabbalist. Like, I'm glad that I'm a Kabbalist because I could use this. It's not the best thing for me, but it's not the worst thing either. Like, it's helping me. Like, it helps me. Don't judge me. Like, I'm not even using hard drugs. And fentanyl, that's a different thing. Personally, I would never use fentanyl. I don't even smoke weed anymore. What would I use fentanyl for? But I'm kind of trying to hint that like I kind of know what I'm doing, but it does affect me when people are jumping into conclusions because of their own belief. It's like I said this yesterday. Like, it's Sabbath right now, but I need to do the yoga exercise. I shouldn't do it because my religion says not to. But the thing is, there will be no Sabbath if there's no me. Like, I'll be back. And even Yahusha, that's Jesus' real Hebrew name. He said like Sabbath is for men, not meant for the Sabbath. It's like I'm doing everything that I do for survival, including the yoga exercise. If I don't do it, I wouldn't say I'll die. I will die, but very close to it. So I have to do yoga. So that's man for the Sabbath, not the Sabbath for men. Yeah, don't die for the sake of religion. God is within you. God is in every single one of us. That's in every religion that I've studied. So empower that God, and if this is the thing that helps you to empower that God temporarily, all drugs are temporary. All drugs are medicine. All medicine is temporary. If this is helping you at that point in time, and like how long is really up to you, up to the individual. Um, the reason why people seem to abuse quote unquote drugs is because they have no other way. Like I have ways to cope now, which helps me eventually to let go of what I'm doing. But until that time, I'm not gonna let go, you know. But I couldn't stream like a year ago. I was using weed. Like I wouldn't show that to the world, just personally. But now I'm at a point where I'll never use weed again. So yeah, there there's there is like a form of evolution if you know the way. I know the way. It just there's a lot of work. There's time, long time, and a lot of work. And that's why I started streaming because I know the way. Like I'll say this: the Hare Krishna mantra does not involve idols or a form of figurines. And if you're a Christian, you can still chant the mantra because in Christianity it's called speaking in tongues. I'm basically speaking in tongues. If I were a Christian, the entire Bible was written by Jews, and the Jews knew exactly what they were doing. Hence, the reason why I'm converting into Judaism, because when there's a will, there's a way. Christianity is supposed to be the most fasting religion of them all. No other religion stresses fasting more than Christianity, but somehow uh, Christians eat better than a lot of other people. And to this day, I don't understand it because Yahusha, that's Jesus' real name. Yahusha said, when the groom is taken from the bride will fast. And Yahusha himself fasted for 40 days. No other individual has fasted 40 days. I take that back. In the ancient days, people fasted a lot longer. They didn't stress it though. But, 2,000 years until now, nobody has fasted 40 days. And he set that as an example. Like he knew nobody could fast 40 days, but he did that just to show as like a form of devotion to God. His disciples Yahusha's disciples couldn't drive out a certain demon or group of demons, and then Jesus drove them out, or Yahusha, sorry. Yahusha drove them out, and the disciples asked, like, why couldn't we drive it out? Why could you? And Yahusha replied, this kind can only come out by fasting and prayer and fasting. Yeah, Christianity is supposed to be the most fasting religion in the world. The groom hasn't come back yet. Yahusha isn't here yet. He's around, but he's not here. When he comes, according to the New Testament, according to Christian Bible, he comes from heaven. So, everybody will know. But until then, you're supposed to fast if you're a Christian. No other religion fasts more than, it's supposed to fast more than Christians. Like this kind can only come out by prayer and fasting. It's really special to me. I don't know about you, but that sounds really special to me. Like even Hindus fast more than Christians now, which is kind of like backwards to me. Like Hindus fast, like Vaishnavas, the Hare Krishna devotees, they fast once every 2 weeks. It's called Ekadashi. That's Ekadashi means the 11th. They use the moon calendar. It's the 11th day of the new moon or the full moon. So it's twice, twice a month. And physically speaking, that's the least. That's the time when the body uh, desires the food the least. So it's kind of it's called Ayurvedic. It's And I apologize again. Because of my fatal encounter injury, I could hardly speak, and I used to speak better. It's not that I'm learning English or anything. My last name is Vimes. And whoever clicked on the IMDb page is like, hey, what did he link to some other person? It's like, no, that person was me. I was supposed to be dead. I'm still alive. Maybe there was a need for this rant, so for people to understand where I'm coming from. And I'm not in my 20s or 30s. Not a teenager either. I lost the track of thought. But yeah, um, if you're a Christian, you should fast sometimes, sometime. And the funniest thing is when you say the word Yahusha, sometimes the Christians get really scared. Like, what's in a word? Like, to me, Jesus is a made up name. I used to say Yeshua, and then I almost called them Hebrews. The Jews told me that you know what Yeshua means? It means to clean. I was like, oh, like I get it. Okay, what's his real name? It's like Yahuwah and Yahusha. If you're a Christian, try it in your prayer sometime. If you aren't scared off by the word Yahusha, I don't know why Christians would get scared. Some, not all of them. Some Christians have a disliking or disinclination towards that word. I don't know why. When I heard that word, I was like, oh, thank you. Like I really appreciate it. That's his real Hebrew name, not some made up name like Emmanuel. Ugh. It's like try to westernize, like um, I should say this because no Jews would actually say this. Uh, this is supposed to be in secret, but I'll let you know something. Jews, I'll just say Jews. I wouldn't say some Jews. I'll just say Jews. No, you know what? I'll correct myself. Some Jews believe in Yahusha secretly, and they'll never let you know, ever. Especially if you're a non-Jew. I understand why. Do you? I need a nicotine after saying that. That's another thing for me. What do you need to profess your uh, faith, or like, what do you need to say to other people? I believe in Jesus. You should too. Like, wow, some kind of evil spirit, as Yahusha will call it. A lot of Christians scared away by the term demons, or if you talk about demons, they'll label you as crazy, which is contradictory to the actual teaching of Yahusha. All Yahusha talked about was demons, or how to drive them out. All diseases he cured, he was driving out demons to cure them. If you become a perfected yogi, um, life becomes meaningless. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's close to the truth. And why does that perfected yogi live afterwards? Because, what is it? And I'm quoting Yoga Sutra. The motive for helping humanity is sufficient for him to live. So you live to not I wouldn't say help others, but to save the world. And that motive is sufficient for that perfected yogi. There's no other reason. Life becomes meaningless. Like, perfect yogi becomes a billionaire, and he says like, "This is all pain. Like, why am I alive?" No, this is my first time ranting. I thought I was an introvert. Really, really good actors are all introverts. Forget what you've heard. I was in the film industry for 7 years, 8 years. I know what I'm talking about. And if you've seen my last video, I said I was in ABC, NBC, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and many, many others as a professional extra, SAG extra. And that was the life that I've lived for a few years. And it was like being in heaven. The stupidest thing that I did was I took heaven for granted at some point. But everything is like that in the world. So, a perfected yogi thinks that life is meaningless. Kind of makes sense, because people get used to they get used to everything. You have the most beautiful wife, and 7, 8 years later, you're just like, oh my god, it's a pain. And I should mention that, yeah, to a perfected yogi, if he needs something, the thing will automatically come to him because he's a perfected yogi. Like Jesus didn't need, well, he walked on water because he didn't want to show off that he could walk on water. He needed to walk on water to catch up to the disciples. No, there must have been some other way. There was no boats or planes back then, like motorboats. I'm talking about. And yeah, I keep saying Jesus. I'm being influenced by Christians. Like to me, at the moment, like even saying the word Jesus is kind of demonic. That's not even in his name. Yahusha, Yahusha. I think I pretty much cover all my religious beliefs or something or whatever I needed to say. And this was just a practice, and I could hardly speak. So I apologize if I sound like I'm mumbling. It's a miracle that I'm even able to open my mouth. And trust me, I know what I'm talking about myself, about my condition. I even say I used to. I'll even say this. I used to look better. When you go through a fatal encounter, you kind of tend to look different. Yeah, working for the film industry was the best for me. I don't do anything else, and I can't do that as far as I know. And maybe I'm speaking from my lack of faith. I I don't think I could ever do that again, and it saddens me more than anything else. That was like all the celebrities that I've encountered. I got to see them personally, and I'm not the dumbest person on the planet. I don't think, and I could tell a couple of things just by looking at a person. I wouldn't conclude anything from it, but after not you can't as an even as an extra you cannot directly interact. You shouldn't interact with the celebrities. I didn't, but when you're around them for a couple of years, you get a sense of who they are just being around them, and that's why I say it was heaven for me, and that's why it saddens me the most. Now I don't know what their personal life was like. Maybe they had difficulties as well, hardships. But as far as I could tell, it was a complete different world. It was heaven. And I keep saying the word heaven, heaven, heaven. And if anybody in the film and industry, see, I can't even say industry anymore. In the film industry is watching this, yeah, I'm really grateful to have been a part. There was no other, like nothing compares to it. And I was just a professional extra. And I I wouldn't even dream of being a celebrity, but like being a professional extra was like heaven for me. Nothing else in life is worth living for. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's like life is not completely meaningless for me, or not yet anyway. But that was meaningful. The film industry, I mean. And if somebody said it like, "Oh, you're on Netflix," that's forever. Nothing is forever. Forever, maybe forever, but nothing else is forever. The soul is forever, but the soul forgets itself after even tens of trillion, hundreds of trillion years. And it starts back up again. So the forgetting process is kind of like the end, I think. I apologize for the last time if I said anything that was stupid. I said a lot of stupid things. Why did I have to open my mouth in my past life and did other things other than just recite Sanskrit and teach the Hare Krishna mantra? What did I do other things than that? So that's what I'm doing now. And yeah, because everything else that comes out of my mouth is like, I wouldn't call it bull crap. Rant. Opinions. Like all I said in this video, I'm gonna, like, for the second time, I'm gonna make sure that whatever I'm writing, whatever the label that I put on this video is called rant. Yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep soon and face the world. And hopefully, I could remind myself that nothing is random. Everything, nothing is a coincidence. And hopefully there's a way. So when you don't see a way out, you can only say there is a way. If you have a lot of hope and a mustard seed of faith, you say there are many ways. I could only say for myself, there must be a way out of this. All right, I'm signing out. I think it's time. 2 hours and 15 minutes. Thank God there were no, like, there. I don't know how many people will watch this on YouTube, but At least I'm not speaking to hundreds of people at the moment. Or 50 years from now, somebody's gonna watch this and go like, "What is he mumbling? What language is he speaking?" Fatal wound. I'm still alive. Okay. Namaste. Thank you very much.